Welcome. Thank you guys for coming on to the Echo Means Business live event. It is February. We are talking about tools recommended for starting your lawn care business or landscape business or any type of business that is great for you guys. We even got hardscape business down here. So I want to thank everybody for joining in. My name is Scott. I'm Landscapes by Acme. I am the host. And I'm going to throw it off to each one of our guests on here and let them tell you a little bit about themselves and their names, and we'll go from there. So we're going to go right below me is Nicole. Nicole, go ahead and let them know your spiel.
My name is Nicole Sutterfield-Cook. I own the Landscape Manicurist and I opened it in 2015. I do hardscape, landscape design and installation, sod work, and I think hardscaping, I guess. So I sub out sprinkler work and chemical spraying.
Nice. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
To the show. So we have Pablo underneath her. Pablo, go ahead and tell a little bit about yourself and stuff. He's there. You're on mute, Pablo, buddy. He likes it. What's up,
My name
Pablo?
is Pablo, like Scott say. I'm owner of the Black Sheep Lawn Service down here in Florida, in the city of St. Cloud, Orlando area. We've been in business for almost 4 years. We concentrate more on lawn maintenance, residential. We have a few commercial, but nothing major. That's it.
Nice. Thank you for being on, Pablo. Thank you. We have another person right underneath us, all the way at the bottom. He's not the last person, but he is one of the great guests we have on here. Brian, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from.
How's it going? My name is Brian. I am the owner of BL Landscapes. We are located about 90 miles north of Seattle, Washington. Our focus is really on softscapes and hardscapes installs. We don't do any maintenance, but we do, water features, irrigation, retaining walls, pavers, you name it, decks, fences, pergolas, outdoor living spaces. Pretty much everything you can think about here in the Northwest. And like I said, we have a lot of great guys in our area that do maintenance, so we refer that work out to them. And we've been in business full time for about the past 12 years. And we have a small crew of 5 guys, and we take one project at a time, and we just love what we do.
Nice. Welcome to the show. So today we're going to talk about some great new topics. It is called tools that are recommended for starting your business. So there's a lot of tools that we recommend, but we're going to hit these pros up and ask them what kind of tools they recommend that are good for their business. We're going to go down to Brian. Brian, what kind of tools and what kind of, stuff that you'd use those tools that you recommend for starting out a business?
So for us, I'll kind of focus on some of the hardscape tools here. And, just starting with the real basics, good shovels, good wheelbarrows, all that back-breaking stuff. That's the stuff that's really important, especially when you're first starting out. If you can't afford equipment, stuff like that, that's one of the things. It is actually possible to get started in hardscapes without spending thousands and thousands of dollars on tools. And so, really beyond that kind of stuff, obviously with hardscapes, some of your main tools that you're going to need right away are a decent plate compactor, getting your basin properly for pavers and retaining walls, all that stuff is very important. So a good plate compactor. The other thing that we utilize every single day is going to be a couple of good concrete saws. We run a 9-inch battery-powered saw that we really like. It's great for more intricate stuff and smaller curves. We also use a 14-inch concrete, a hot saw. And then, a step up from that is a wet saw like your IQ saws. We actually run a well, I guess the IQ isn't a wet saw, but we run a Husqvarna. That's a wet saw, table saw, and we really like that. It's got a lot of ability to cut nice straight lines and do nice intricate cuts with that. Some other things, levels are great to start out with. When you can't afford it, it's really great to get a nice transit. Transits are great. You can start out with a $400 Bosch Transit from Home Depot, and that'll do the job and get you started on the right page. And as you grow, you can step up from there to transits that can handle larger job sites, do slopes, and all of that stuff. Screed rails and screed tools are great to have for hardscapes, as opposed to trying to level your base course with a landscape rake or something like that. A nice screed set will help you to be able to get that base just a little more perfect and do it without so much work. And then of course your basics, mallets, small torpedo levels, string lines, steel stakes, that kind of stuff. It's always nice to have a nice 4-inch grinder too. So there's just a ton of stuff that those kind of tools can get you started on your basic journey and get you going to where you can properly install projects, and as you grow, step up to the next level of tools.
Nice. That's a lot of tools for a hardscape business, but I mean, yeah, when you're doing hardscape, I mean, I imagine there's tons and tons of tools that you need to start out with, and that you can continue to keep growing and expanding. Like you said, start out with smaller stuff and then just kind of keep growing up from there. So thank you for that one. Definitely. I mean, that's a lot, but I mean,
yeah.
That's a good start. I mean, definitely starting that way. It's a good way to go up from there. Pablo, I know you do lawn care. So what kind of tools would you start out with that you or recommend? What do you recommend?
Well, I can give you my example, right? I was a truck driver, and I saved some money, and when I have a big chunk of money, I went and got myself a whole setup on Marketplace. It has the trailer, it has the mower, the trimmers, like pretty much everything I need, and it wasn't that expensive. Now, tool wise, I would say you got to look in your area what you need the most, or what you think that you need the most. For example, in my area, I can't get, it's not profitable for me to get a bigger mower, like more than 52 inches, because I won't be able to use it. Most of the houses have gates, fence, and so in my point of view, the 36-inch is perfect for me. Now, trimmers, the PAS Echo 225 or 2620, those are really good tools to have, because you can switch you put any attachment. You can use it as an edger. You can use it as to cut the shrubs. As a cultivator, you can put there's like 16 different attachments that you can use with the same tools. So all you got to do is get the head, and then slowly you will be adding more attachments to get the job done. Other than that, just the mower, I would say maybe go with like a Honda 21-inch, kind of commercial. They're a little pricey, but it will last you a long time. And that's it.
That's a lot. I mean, I think the PAS is a versatile a piece of equipment you should have. I mean, there's so many different options you can get, and you start out with just the weed whip. You can add on, the edger. You can add on the blower. You can keep adding on whatever you need, and I think that's definitely a good starting point between mowers and a truck and a trailer and a PAS. I mean, you can just go up from there. Definitely, that's a good point there. I know one of my things as a is very good piece of equipment that I always recommend, but I'm going to throw it over to Nicole, because my piece of equipment that I would recommend goes with hers just perfectly. And I'd like to hear some more of what you recommend, Nicole.
Well, I have my notes here because I was kind of going back and looking at when I started so long ago. And I really had like my SUV. And so at that point, I had, some hand clippers. Of course, again, I'm doing shrubs at this point. So, hand clippers, even a, electric hedge trimmer, and just the little basic tools that you would need at least to just go ahead and do the trimming in that case. A rake, good quality trash bags. Don't go for the cheap stuff. You could even reuse them if you just dump them out and put them all back in the bag. They're pretty expensive. I'm trying to think what else. I definitely don't mow, so I don't need a lawnmower. But I think if you're going to start out cheap, that's the way to go, is just your basic tools. And then get on Marketplace or whatever and start kind of making a list of and upgrading your tools from there, because it's possible to start out pretty cheap and, go up from point A. So I also think that like an invoicing app that I use, which is, I think it's Invoice Maker. It's $1.99. I use that every day or every bid that I do. Square, which is a payment, you can go ahead and accept payments through it. They have a estimate, invoicing thing on there as well. So you can send it out to your clients. I use iScape for just a quick showing my client where maybe a shrub needs to go, or putting a tree in their current landscaping. I can take a photo of their house and put things in there that can get, I think it's $30 a month. I think that there's certain things that, depending on what your goal is, which you need to obviously set before you start any of this, is, where do you want to be in a year? What do you need to get there? I think there's a ton of podcasts that you can listen to also to go ahead and see what equipment you might need to go ahead and get to next year to that goal.
Yeah, some great stuff there. I mean, tool I was talking about was my phone. I think my phone is definitely, the most important tool ever. I mean, I think we all use our phones anymore, with our CRMs, our, like you were talking about your estimating, you can do your estimating, you can GPS the property and know exactly where the property is. You can overlook it. There's so much we can use our phones for, and it's definitely, we have a question here. Would any of the panelists say clients should come first, then get tools for the project, or get the tools, then the clients? I'd like to hear what you guys got. Which one would like to join in and answer this question? Nicole, go ahead.
I would say it depends on what you're doing. I mean, if you're going and YouTubing how to do hardscaping, I guess you would have to go ahead and make your list of your level and basic hardscaping. I'm not talking major stuff. And if you're just going to do a small retaining wall, so you're going to have to do it at one point or another. So
right.
How are you going to get your foot in the door? Yeah, you're going to have to make a list.
Right. I think
prior to going ahead and offering something that you're not familiar with, for sure.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. But it's that's kind of how we started too, is just having your basics and then buying tools as the clients come, as you sign a job and that job requires a tool and it'll pay for that tool. That's kind of how you just slowly grow, and each thing that you take on that you need a bigger, better tool, then you just kind of figure that that's going to come out of your profit for that job and get the tool so that you can do the job.
Correct. I think that's the easiest way. Pablo, what do you think about it?
I'm in the same page. If you are, continue going to different jobs and you realize that, oh my God, I need this tool. And then on the next job, you're like, oh my God, I need this. So that's a sign that you need to buy it. You definitely need to get it.
Oh yeah. I think you jump up. All right. Jason Troy got a new question.
I have another. I was just going to add, I think there's a lot of times that you need to know where your limits are too, rather than going ahead and starting something that you is way out of your ability.
Yeah.
And that's when you can bring in a subcontractor. I'm not going to go, I can maybe fix a sprinkler head if I bust it or whatever, but I'd rather my sprinkler guy come in and take care of that. And that's where those relationships come in and are so important to be able to go ahead and say, hey, I've got a sub, he'll take care of it. If you just don't want to get over your head. So don't put yourself in a spot that you're bidding, a 6 foot tall wall if you're just not able to do it. So
Correct. I
Definitely.
agree with that. Definitely. Jason Troy has a question. Now that I'm established, if I need a new tool, I won't go out and buy it until I have the job lined up and need that particular tool. Is that? I mean, I kind of agree with that. I go out and sometimes you either buy a tool or you rent a tool. I mean, but a lot of times, if you definitely know that you have that job lined up, do you guys go out and buy it? And then right here's another question: how do you feel about renting equipment when needed? Any of you guys renting equipment instead of buying them? And what's your thoughts on that? Nicole?
I can say we definitely do.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine, Brian.
no,
Yeah, I just going to say in our industry, at first, I mean, you need a dump trailer, you need a mini excavator, you need a mini skid steer or a full-size skid steer. Those are things that a new business typically can't afford to go out and spend tens of thousands of dollars on. So renting is a great option in the beginning, especially, because like I said, a job isn't going to just pay for a new skid steer. So it's a great option in the beginning for sure. And it's something we still utilize to this day because you have to weigh out whether you need a $50,000, $60,000 piece of equipment or if it's something you're just going to rent once a month.
Correct. I mean, I'm the same way. I mean, I still rent skid steers when we need them. The only factor is because literally why have a payment on a skid steer that's sitting there when we're only using it, 1-2 times a month, when you can go out and rent it. It comes down to, you have to weigh it. If you're using it more and it's something that you can use, then definitely go out and, see if you can put it into, using it more and paying it off quicker instead of renting. But sometimes renting in the long run helps out a lot better. Here we go. Jar. When we first started, we would price in the tools and equipment needed for our estimates. Once the job was accepted, we go buy the tool. Yeah, I think we all do that. I mean, Nicole probably is, priced in for, a hedge trimmer once or twice, probably just to make sure that got it. No.
no.
Come on.
No, I think, well, I actually don't.
Okay.
So I'm a set price. For me, if I have a sub behind me, I'm a set price. So I don't want to ever do a bid on one property and go, why is she, $100 more per hour? I'm a per hour. I can bid it out per hour. I just know how long it takes me to do certain things. I spoke to my concrete sub today. We were talking about certain things that you could actually do that with, which would be workman's comp or some type of insurance if you're going to work on a commercial property, where you could actually add that into the bid as a line item. But I personally have not done that. No.
Okay. Pablo, have you? Pablo, have you bought a tool if you needed it and priced it in the job?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Nicole there, because then the estimate is going to be really high on the price, and you would definitely, in my experience, not get the job, but now on the renting, that's something that everybody should do. Rent some equipment, especially bigger equipment, and they're really expensive. Once you start pushing those kind of jobs, and you see it's profitable for you, then you might be able to rethink and say, okay, it's time to go ahead and do the expense and get that tool, because it's good for my business.
Right. I agree with you. Here we go. I got a good question for you guys. So Nicole was talking about subbing. So a lot of times when you guys start out, you're by yourself, but you might go into a big job. So I know, Nicole, you sub out some of your work. Tell us a little bit more about that. And does anybody else have ever subbed out an employee to, to get employees for a certain job? Nicole?
Let's see. So I do subcontract again, let's say just my sprinkler guy. I will go ahead and have him walk the property, go ahead and submit his bid. A lot of times I don't do this. People can add 20% to that. So you are making a small amount of money off of it. I work per hour. So if that's an hour of my time to go out there and, meet the sprinkler guy, then that's what's going to be put into my bid. I will meet with him. We'll go through if he's going to put drip lines. I'll be back out once we do the install, and talk with him. So there's that. There's times the mini skid, like, again, I have somebody that will come in, if I need something major done that my other subs can't do, they'll come in and go ahead and level or what have you with the mini skid. And it just saves me, I guess that's what it's called, the one with the little skid. It just saves me time. I just know where my limits are and where I want to be, at least within my business at this point. The problem with subs is then, of course, you have to, anything over $600, you do have to send them, a 1099 at the end of the year. It's not like you're just able to use them and, you're making money off of them, but you still have to go tax wise that you're on that end at the end of the year. So I was going to go back to the renting the stump grinder a while back. As long as you rent it on a Friday, you can usually have it over the weekend. So if you guys can, go ahead and book out, 3 or 4 other jobs or 6 through the weekend, then you're usually able to pay for it and make some money at the back end.
Nice. Pablo, have you ever subbed to anybody or subbed in another contractor to help out with a job?
Well, I mean, yeah, there's some jobs that I actually don't do.
Right.
And eventually I had to reach out some friends, but I try not to. I wanted to concentrate on, as of right now, on just kind of go with what I do. If the customers that I already have some issues with, like, let's say, replacing sod, and it's a big piece of, like, let's say, the entire front of the house or maybe the entire house, then I might have to wish somebody, because I don't have the equipment and I'm probably won't have the time to do it. But like I say, I try to concentrate on what I do, and then maybe little by little try to expand, but just kind of keep it tight and be good on what I do.
Correct. Yeah, definitely. Brian, have you subbed any workout or have a subcontractor for something?
Yeah, for sure. So for us, I'm actually licensed as a general contractor specifically for that reason, so that I can sub jobs out. And to kind of touch on what Nicole said, there's a lot of guys who they up that price 20% to make a profit off of it. We don't do that either. For me, I think for us, it's a convenience for the homeowner that we're able to offer to them, instead of having to go find another guy that they might not trust to do something. We're able to be that middleman and take care of that, where they don't have to worry about paying someone else. They don't have to worry about finding someone else. They just use us. So like we sub out concrete work. We do a ton of pavers, but concrete work, we've done it, but it's not our thing. So we sub that out. We sub out electrical work, obviously, for water features. If we have to have power run to them or something like that, we'll sub that out. Along with that, you have to really know your subs, because when you refer someone or you use someone else, that's your name on the line. And so I'm real careful about who we use as subcontractors. We want them to represent the same thing that we represent. And so that's the one word of advice I would have, is just be careful and know your subcontractors before you just throw them out there on your job, and they might not do the same quality work that you do.
I totally agree with you, Brian, on that one. Definitely when subbing, you got to know who is doing the work. I always like to go out and, take a look at their work and see how they do it, and, let them see how I do my stuff and say, this is how I would do it. If I'm going to sub you out for something, hopefully you can do it the same exact way. And if it's not going to work out, you move on and find somebody else, or you just don't take that job if you can't do it. Paul Kamara says, when subbing, do you pay the sub direct or and take on the liability, or let the customer pay directly to that sub? Nicole, do you?
It just depends on what it is.
Okay.
Let's say I have my handyman guy go and bid out a fence. I go ahead and just scoot that over to the homeowner.
Right.
I don't really mess with stuff like that. I've had pergolas built. Sometimes I'll go ahead and have pay direct to me. Again, it depends. If I don't have to necessarily go back on the property, there's times I might add a little bit of a fee, and it's very rare that I do that. I just want my customers to understand I'm there to make their life easier. I don't live in a Tulsa or Oklahoma City or anything like that where I'm having to drive, 45 minutes to a job either. So it might make a difference on what you would add to a sub or how you're going to pay. Some subs don't even use, the payment methods. So
Right.
you're going to chase the sub around and make sure that they're going to get paid.
Right.
My thing with some of my subs, though, is I will say it is a good relationship because they will, obviously recommend me or, for sod work or things that are within my scope of an ability. Gutter work as well. I mean, I just think that it all fits in there. It's just something I don't necessarily want to go ahead and have this huge company that has all these little subdivisions. I just don't want to deal with that at all.
Right. Brian or Pablo, what do you guys think about that?
So for us, I mean, I would say one of the main things is that if you're subbing them out the right way and the legal way, they should have their own insurance and everything too. So they're actually their liability is on them regardless. That's one of the great things about being a general contractor or having that in your license is that when you sub them out, it's their license and their insurance that their liability. As far as payment goes, we typically we kind of do it both ways. Some subs, we take the payment and pay the subs from the homeowner. It's just included in our quote. Some subs, we have them work directly with the client. The one thing you have to be careful of with that, if you're taking the payment and then paying your subs, you have to remember that you're paying taxes on that money too. So if the money goes through you, then you've got to account for that and know that you're paying taxes on it before it goes to your sub.
Correct. I totally agree with that one. I mean, if I'm going to use a sub and, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to pass their name on to that person, let the customer deal with them more than me most of the time, because it's just like you said, the taxes, all that. There's a lot there that's involved in that, to just pass it on to them and let them, the customer deal with them directly. That way, if there's an issue down the road, the customer can deal with that person, not directly to me. J&J Property Pros say, what kind of invoicing and estimate programs do you guys use? I know I use Jobber. They kind of use Jobber. Is there anything that you guys would recommend for using for estimating? Any special apps maybe that we might put on our phones for estimating and invoicing? Nicole?
Well, I mentioned earlier, I actually have it in my notes. It's called Invoice Maker. Okay. Again, it's $1.99. You can put in there, again, as a landscaper, you can put in there boxwoods and different types of trees. And so all you have to do is click on it and it'll bring it up into your, I say invoice, but I actually use it as my estimator. I do the estimate. And then once they accept it, it scooches over to an invoicing, and then I can go ahead and send it to them, once the job is complete. Square, again, payment app, they also have an invoicing and estimate program. I've used it a handful of times. I felt that it was a little bit cumbersome as far as, I don't know that I wanted all of that. I didn't like the way that it ran. The other one was iScape Pro, it has an invoicing or estimate. So once you do your estimate, it'll show the trees and what you've put in there. And I believe that they might have an area, of course, at the end of my estimates, I go ahead and tell them what I accept, which would be, PayPal, check, or whatever. So we deal with, the payment on the other end.
Nice. Pablo, what kind of invoicing programs do you use?
I started with Jarbook. To me, it
Okay.
was really simple. It was free. And I was able to send invoices with my logo and everything to the customers. Later on, I kind of went with Jobber.
Okay.
It's a lot easier. It's more phone friendly, so I went that route. But you have to use something like that, some sort of CRM, just to make your life easier.
What does Jobber cost per month? Is there I
There,
would like to look into it. I was just
there's
wondering what
three
the
different
charge
They
tiers.
have
Yeah. Yeah.
like three
There's three
different
different
ones.
tiers that go up.
It all
It just
depends
depends on
on.
what you want to start at. The smallest is what I would say if you're going to go with it, right, Pablo?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's so phone friendly that you don't need the computer. I don't use the computer. I'm on the computer right now. It's my son, and I feel like kind of weird. I do everything through my phone. All the invoices. I take the payments. I send when they are not paying. I send the invoice. It showed me everything. Like so, yeah. You have to use some sort of CRM to make your life easier. I still do paper just to kind of have something a backup just in case Jobber go off the grid or whatever. And,
You
but
never know.
yeah, definitely you need something on your phone to make your life easier.
Yeah. Brian, do you have any special
Uh,
programs for invoicing?
So I am going to be completely honest with you. We don't
Okay.
have any reoccurring projects. We don't have
Right.
reoccurring billing to do or anything. And so I am very old school still. I'm behind the times. I handwrite all of my quotes. I handwrite all of my invoices. It's not something I would suggest for people because it's a lot of work. But I've just been resistant to my wife telling me over and over that I need to get with the times and do stuff on the computer. So yeah, I handwrite hundreds of quotes and invoices every year. But like I said, for us, it's a little different. We don't have any reoccurring stuff. So we have a quote that gets signed by the client. We do typically a 50-50 payment thing where we take 50% down when we sign and the balance gets paid the day we're completed. So there's for me, I have hard copies of everything. It's in my office, years and years, hundreds of books full of them. But it's not the most efficient system, so I wouldn't recommend it to anybody.
Right. I mean, I hate to say it, but I did it for years. I mean, I've been in business 28 years, and I did a lot of hand, writing of estimates, all that stuff for years. I mean, it took me years before I started with a program. And there's
Yeah.
tons of other programs out there. And I mean, yeah, you can do it, straight by, like Brian does. Write it off, write it all by hand the first, couple of years if you wanted to starting a business, and then move on up. You go into Yardbook, you go into Jobber, there's LMN, there's QuickBooks. I mean, there's so many different apps that you can add on your phone as you grow, to go forward, if you want to. Sometimes you don't need to, like Brian, he doesn't have any recurring business. So, sometimes you don't need all that fancy stuff. It just depends on what type of business you have and what you're running to, go from there. Has anybody used, I've heard of this one, like Google Maps for mapping out your yards, measuring stuff, or I know there's a measuring app too. Does anybody use any of that for Nicole?
I use iMeasure,
Okay.
so I'm able to go ahead and do like a GPS and measure for mulch, or if I'm going to go ahead and put sod down, so I have an accurate measurement. I walk it out sometimes if it's just a really small area or if there's a tree in the way. So, which is what I did earlier today. So yeah, I measure. There's no cost for it. You just put the address in. You go ahead and put your little dots down and it'll show you the square footage, and then you just go into whatever invoicing or estimate app that you have and throw it down as far as how much mulch you need.
Right. Pablo, you use any Google Maps or anything to or you go out and measure by hand too?
Yeah, I like to see everything because you can't rely on. You might have the square feet around the area, but you don't know how the yard is gonna look or how bad the weeds are on the flower beds. Or I like to go and take a look, and it's sometimes customers or possible customer get kind of uh, hard on you on the over the phone, like, oh, I can send you photos. No, it doesn't work like that for me. I have to be
Well,
there
and
and
I would
see.
say that I use that after I've walked the property. So
Yeah, I
But
think
yeah, it's just you gotta go. You gotta go and take a look of everything.
yeah, definitely. Brian, I'm assuming you probably go out there too and look at everything, correct?
Yeah, I have a measuring wheel. I have a tape measure. I have a nice, for us in the Northwest, I have a book that's waterproof that I can write on when it's raining because 90% of the time I'm doing a bid, it's in the rain. So that's a big one that changed the game for me. But yeah, I actually go out, hand measure everything. I want to get elevations. The other hard part about doing anything with satellite stuff around here is that there's trees everywhere. So it blocks the view of everything that you need to measure from above. So yeah, everything by hand on that end.
Okay, so here's a good question for all of you guys. Now, let's say you're behind on your job because of rain. Do you guys text, do you call, or do you email the customer to let them know that you're behind? I'd like to hear this one. Nicole, you're smiling.
I would say that, yeah, it's already like as I submit my estimate, I copy and paste it on every one that there might be a delay if there's rain, or if the heat index is above 110, we're probably not going to be out there working. Below 32 degrees, that there might be a delay on the property. I usually text the best I can. Obviously, if it's going to rain for 2 or 3 days, again, in what I copy over into the estimate at the bottom of the notes is every day it rains, we might need 2 days to go ahead and allow it to dry out for us to be on the property. But if you have any questions, please feel free to text, or call me to find out where you are now on my schedule if we run into that type of delay.
Nice. Pablo.
And I will say, I think too, Echo Means Business, on what is it on the they
website.
have a lot of these contracts.
Yeah.
I don't use any of the contracts, but they have snow removal contracts and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's written in there, but it really should be. It should be at the bottom of the page
Right.
as to rain delays and what's going to happen.
Yeah. Pablo, do you call everybody or text everybody?
Down here in Florida, most of the time, especially where I live, it's in the evening. It kind of rains pretty much every evening. And if it's continues like every day for like, let's say 4 or 5 days in a row, there's going to be a point that some yards are better not to show up because you're going to actually do, like damage the whole yard by using the big mower. And when it's that point, I text the customer, let them know what's going on. Sometimes they understand, sometimes they don't. But it's nothing I can do. I just can go because it will be worse than going.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to damage the yard if you can let the customer know and wait, even a couple, hours or a day to come back and give them the right, quality product that they want and make sure it looks good for you and them. So yeah, definitely. Brian, do you let them know if you're running behind on stuff? I know you said it rains a lot up there by you.
Yeah, so it rains a lot, but I would say it's funny here because it rains a lot, but our annual rainfall is like 19 inches.
Wow.
It'll rain like 300 days of the year, but it's only 19 inches. I have family in Louisiana, and they're like, yeah, it rained that today. So we don't really get stopped by the weather very much, and our projects, typically we're on projects for a week or more at a time. So but if we have any kind of delays due to materials, weather, anything like that, I will definitely contact the clients to let them know, hey, we're not going to be there today. This is why. We do that a couple of different ways. Some clients were on a text message basis. Some clients prefer email. So, we also use the Facebook business app a lot. So we get a lot of communication through there. But so like I said, if we're not going to be there and we're supposed to, we're going to give them a heads up and let them know why.
Nice. So here, I got a good question for you guys. I'm seeing it over on the chat over on YouTube. But so do you guys, any of you, would you use it, or do you have interest in it? The measuring tool that goes on, onto your phone, like Mo Measure, I think it is, that you can walk around and do digitally get you the exact measurements of like a bed or a yard. Would either of you guys interested in using something like that, or would that be something that you would be prone to not use?
I'm definitely interested in that. I've been seeing lately that they not only can measure distance, but grade elevation changes too, which is super cool. It's just something I haven't invested in yet, but the more people that I see in this field that are using it successfully and they're super happy with it, it seems like something that we'll be doing eventually.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. Pablo, what do you think about it? You seen that?
I've seen them and it looked interesting, but for me right now, where I'm at, I don't think it's a good idea to buy anything like that.
Right.
But it's a good idea to kind of walk around, even in the curves, and don't worry about you're gonna have the right, numbers, because it will do it itself. But yeah, I don't think it's worth it right now for me, my point of view.
Well, Nicole, would you be interested in buying something like that? Or, I mean, I think it comes down to,
when he was talking about elevation, that sounded kind of cool. But if I don't use the measuring app or just basically walking it, I do have a measuring wheel that I'll go ahead and, measure certain areas. But no, I just don't have a need for it. It just seems like one more thing to have, I guess, and one more thing for me to lose or break, or is my app working properly, or what else do I have to pay to measure? But I understand, as far as elevation is concerned, when you're doing hardscaping and stuff like that, for sure.
I mean, I think it would come in handy, especially with beds. I mean, even though you still have to go out and see the bed, I mean, to be able to go out and measure out the measurements for the bed, and even if it's connected to a digital wheel, or something that can go right to my phone to give me the actual measurements real quick, where I don't have to do it. It might save me time, and that's kind of one of the things. But I get where Pablo is. Sometimes the yards, you kind of know the size by looking at them if you're in the same kind of area. So it's kind of like there's pluses to certain businesses, and there's pluses, that it will work for you, and there's negatives on that. So sometimes, it just depends on what your business is and what you're using it for. But still, I feel like you always got to go back out and check that lawn, no matter what you're using, and measure it out yourself sometimes. So, there's pluses and negatives to everything, I think, in the business. But
I will say that I do sub out my chemical guy as well, because I don't have a chemical license and I cannot legally touch chemicals. And so he also uses a GPS type measuring to, of course, it doesn't have to be as accurate, but, so that way he knows if front and back how large the yard would be, and he can go ahead and give me a quote pretty quickly. Usually I'm asking for flower beds, but I'll go ahead and push the yard if needed. So I think any GPS sounds awesome to me. There was one here I saw come up that was actually on the iPhone, but I lost it. I can't scroll back down.
Yeah. But yeah, you bring up a good point. When you first start your business, a good thing is getting licensed, having the right type of license. Like you're saying, fertilizer, I am certified in the state of Ohio. So being able to be certified for, certain things. I know certain states, it just all depends on your state, but certain states, you got to go work for a company for a couple of years. Some you have to go through all the training and stuff and take the test. So, that's a very important thing. What kind of license do you guys would recommend to starting a business?
I did a quick Google search before I got online here for this live. And I think, let's see what I put. I put how to know if I need a license in lawn care. and per state. And it happened to bring up California. Just in California, it sounds like you even need to have a contractor's license. So obviously, depending on what state you live in, things are going to differ. You just can't go out and decide you're going to go mow yards one day and disregard all of the licensing that you're going to need. Echo, again, echomeansbusiness.com, it has all of that. They have a tab that you can click on, and it'll show the licensings per state and per, I guess, whatever you do. So I think also you need to make sure that you get your city business license, and usually within the municipality, you can go in there and it'll show you how to open up a business. And from there, you can also go and check out the landscaping part, which would be a .gov. So make sure it ends in the .gov whenever you're checking your state licensing requirements.
Good point. Good point. Pablo, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, here in Florida, it's by the county. You got to make sure with your county what type of certification or permit do you need to, especially if you're going to do fertilizer or weed control, like any type of Roundup or anything, stuff like that, because we got so much water around that they want to control and give you like some sort of training on how much and all that stuff. But yeah, county, check with your county and the city.
Yeah, definitely. Brian, do you got anything?
It actually should be like EPA. Like the EPA has a deal where anybody that sprays chemicals should have a number on the side of their truck. I mean, they're pretty strict about it, just due to that, or overspraying. I was talking to somebody the other day. If your truck happens to get in a wreck, what's on the back of your truck? They don't know how to clean it up. I mean, they're pretty strict about it, and there's lots of fines. If you just decide to throw Roundup on a client's property, you just can't do that. It's not legal at all.
Correct. Brian, you got anything to add to licenses that you might want to check into getting?
Yeah, I know it's definitely. I've heard from many people it's different state to state on things. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, in Washington State, they have specialty licenses, like being a landscaper is a specialty license. They have them for all kinds of things, but that's one of the reasons it's more money. It's a bigger insurance bond. It's bigger, higher insurance and everything. But we also have a military base here. And so to work on the military base, you have to have the top of everything. And so for us, we have a general contractor license, like I said, and here that covers just about everything except for electrical, things like electrical and plumbing. Those are specialty licenses. But as far as the pesticides go, we are on an island here. They are insanely strict. That is one of the things that you mentioned that you sub out, and I do too. We don't touch any kind of chemicals. It's something that it can definitely be lucrative, but you gotta spend the time to get the schooling and the training. And here it's 8-hour courses with 1,000 questions. It's a big deal, and it's important. Like Pablo said, we're the same way here, water everywhere. So we're constantly worried about runoff and anything like that, which is great. So we just don't mess with it. There's guys, like I said, we do a lot of different things, but there's guys who do that better. And so that's their thing. And so we have them on call. And if we have that situation, then we do that. Other than that, I would say starting a business, the hardest part about starting a business is the licensing, the insurance, the bonding. What do you need for all that stuff? Those kind of tools. That's the hardest part, I think, to figure out is, and I would say, look to your fellow successful businessmen. A lot of guys are more than willing to share and help a new guy figure out how to get started. I mean, the guys that are good, they're not going to see you as competition. They're just, you're another guy in the same field, and they'll help you, point you in the right direction at least, because trying to figure all that out on your own is it's a bear.
Oh yeah. I mean, definitely look for other guys in the business, definitely for, that extra help. You can also go to emblot.com, Echo Means Business. And, there's a lot of good pros there. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Pablo. You can reach out to any of us there and ask questions. we might be in one of your states and we might have the answers. If not, there's other people out there that will gladly help you and get you where you are. We got about 10 minutes left. I want to talk about one other thing. What do you guys think about Google My Business? Do you guys use Google My Business? And what do you think about it? Pablo, I'm going to throw it to you because I know you probably use Google My Business.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like the best thing that I do. I don't need to do door hangers or jar signs or anything like that. I work on my Google account. I ask my customers for reviews. I don't pay Google at all, but by just having a bunch of reviews, when people look jar maintenance near me and it's in my area, I'm gonna be the first or at least the first three by just having reviews. You got to work on that, and it will help on your route density too. Because if you put a specific area, even though you're gonna get called from other areas, but it will actually start. Like people from that specific area are gonna call that number on Google, and that's how you kind of create that route density. And lawn maintenance route density is the key to make money. So yeah, make sure you get your Googles.
How many reviews do you have to have? I was listening to a podcast the other day. There was a certain amount of reviews that you had to have for it to actually come up higher within the rankings of somebody Googling, say lawn care. Isn't there like a 50 or 150, something like that? Do you know?
I don't know exactly how many, but I've seen some videos about 50.
Okay.
I have like 80 or something like that. And it's weird because I know people that have been in the business for like used car for 28 years, and then you look at them on Google and they have this nice Google with a website and everything, but they don't have reviews. And it's like, come on, man, you 28 years of experience. You got to work on your Google and you get your reviews, and people actually read those reviews and they're going to say, okay, he did something good here. He did something wrong, but he answered it back, which is something that you got to do. Answer all your bad reviews, especially, and make a note of why happened and how you're going to fix it, because people read those.
PNH says that he has less than 20 reviews and he only comes up 3 in his area. Well,
Wow.
Nick, it's the reason why you come up at 3 in your area because there's only 5 companies in your area, probably. So I know you're in a small town. So, but yeah, I mean, I think I don't think it always depends on 50. I think it depends on the algorithm sometimes. It also depends on the keywords. Because some people might be just looking for, say, fertilization. They might be looking for mowing. They might be looking for weed pulling. They might be looking for mulch. If you have these words put in your Google Business Manager the right way, it's going to pull up correct. And I think that's, a good thing. Correct, Pablo?
Yeah, you might not be on the top if you have less than 50 or whatever, but if you have reviews, which is the thing with Google, like I was saying, people are going to read it. People are going to see that you got a lot of reviews, and that makes a difference. If it's in your area, a little area, it will show up on the top because of the amount of reviews that you have, and you don't need to pay for that. So go.
Yeah. Brian, do you use Google My Business for anything?
So we do. It's one of those things that I've been learning over time. I think it's a great asset for your business. And like Pablo's saying, the reviews on there make a huge difference. And one thing I've learned over the years, when I first started, we had 5-star reviews and that's it on everything, on Facebook, on Google, on Yelp, on everything. And my first review that wasn't a 5-star, it was actually because I hadn't got a quote back to someone fast enough. It wasn't even about our work. It was about how fast I got the quote back. and it wrecked me. I mean, it was like devastating. But what I've found over time is that, like Pablo said, responding to those negative reviews and explaining without making the person sound like they were wrong, but just explaining your position and apologizing for whatever you did wrong. It makes a big difference. You know, people are actually more inclined to go with a company that has a few negative reviews as opposed to one that's just all nothing but perfect reviews, because they see that as being fake. So Google's great. I'm learning it like you were saying, Scott. There's a lot to it as far as the keywords and all of that. And so we're learning that stuff. We've got our Facebook advertising is pretty nailed down. We don't spend very much money on it, but we get a ton of work from Facebook. But Google, like I said, I think a lot of the reason Facebook works for us here is because it's a smaller area and it's real visual. People get to see our work all the time. And so that helps a lot. But we definitely, I'd say right up there with Facebook, Google is where it's at as far as getting actual customers that come into to call us.
Oh, yeah. Spartan Tree Services says by adding updates to your photos in Google and, frequently, will help you boost up towards the top as well too. So just adding little updates, adding them photos, putting like, hey, there's a sale going on now, or hey, we're in your neighborhood over here doing this, that does help you pull up on the Google faster sometimes. So definitely look into that.
Yeah.
Stuff. There's a lot of things. I mean, like Brian said, I mean, I think we're always learning. I'm not sophisticated that much into a lot of the technical stuff, but we're always learning, and we should always be learning. So them are, some good tools to have for your business. So I
have one thing to add. Yeah. I don't use the Google anything, but I do on your sorry.
No, you're fine.
On Facebook.
Yeah.
There is an area where you can click on being able to link I guess your post, to go ahead and show up in search engines. So I have that toggled to yes on all my posts, but definitely on my landscaping posts. So those posts will actually, the search engines will go ahead and pick that up. So that's free to me as far as being able, but I think Facebook, my target audience is that age group that is on Facebook right now for landscaping, installation, anything like that. For me is there on Facebook. I've never spent any money on advertising except purchasing last year about 4 signs. I've always handed 2 or 3 different business cards to my clients, and then that way they can go ahead and hand them out to anybody. But word of mouth is my advertisement. It always has been. So
yeah, definitely. I think word of mouth has really helped us too. So we're coming down to the end, guys. So I want to remind everybody, I want to thank everybody for being on here. First off, I want to thank you all for watching us, throwing us comments left and right. I want to remind you that we are on here every month. And it's a Monday, usually same time, but it'll be March 25th. We're going to have a great live then that day. So I want to thank everybody for being on. Thank you guys for being here. The comments were great. I think we all learned some stuff, and you never know. There's tons of tools to get us started in a business, and there's tons of stuff that we can always add to that business. So I want to thank you guys. Anything you guys want to throw out there in the last 2 minutes? Nope. So just work on your Google. That's one thing Pablo would say. I know that. Work on Facebook. Work on getting them reviews up. Work on getting that business going. Make sure you got all your certifications in, your licenses in. Look into some apps. Get a phone. Get a good phone. Because that's we all need that phone. We all need that.
Yes.
Yeah. And then
back it up.
Yeah. And then
back it up.
And then just get on the tools. Get the tools you need. Whatever you need. A good shovel. Everybody needs a good shovel. I mean, even Pablo needs a good shovel. If he doesn't have one, I'll send you one, Pablo. So make sure you do. So yeah. And then work up for whatever you need.
Work.
Yeah. You can start low and work all the way up. Don't always go with the cheapest. Don't always go for the most expensive either. So we can always advance from that. So thank you, Nicole, Pablo. Thank you, Brian. It was nice to have you guys on here, So
thank you.
And then also go to EMB or echomeansbusiness.com. you need to talk to us or talk to any other pros. There's a lot of good resources out there. So thank you guys.